And we should also mention that we have not actually met before. So we actually I was supposed to be interviewing Allie yesterday, and something came up and whatever, life happens. And then I was supposed to be doing a webinar for my community today with a guest, like I was supposed to be hosting one. And then the night before, he canceled. So
I'm so sorry.
No, it's so perfect, because I was like, that sucks. Like here, it's going to do this for my audience. And then now there's nothing. So it's either I come up with some training or something, or we don't do anything. And then yesterday I was like, you want to do a Blab tomorrow? And you're like, yes. So
I know. I was so surprised. I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. I can make it up to her for being a total flake yesterday, which I'm so sorry for. And then you're like, so what topic do you want? Maybe podcasting? I was like, wait, hold on. Wait a second. And I went and checked my iTunes and my dates and everything. I was like, oh my gosh, tomorrow's my year anniversary. It's my podcasting birthday. Let's do it. It was so ironic and so perfect. So I'm really excited.
And so perfect too, because like yesterday was my 3 months.
Yeah.
I know that maybe sounds weird to people, but like 3 months is a big deal in podcasting.
Yes.
Like
My first week was like impressive. Like it was so much work just to get past that first month or so. 3 months is definitely, because most podcasters, I think the statistic is like it's 7 episodes. Most people don't make it past 7 episodes. You're at 42,
42, I think. 40, was it Andy Christina dropped today, and it was 42 or 43, but I've actually already recorded over 100. So we're recording into December. You might be one of like the last ones of the year.
Oh, no, that's okay. I'll hit it up with a bit. No worries. I got this. It's fine.
Yeah, it's crazy because I need to stay ahead of it. I'm going to try this little share the last 30. I don't even know what that's about, but we're going to just do it.
It'll share our last 30 seconds of us talking and being dorks onto Twitter.
But it's not sharing. I said share now. It's not sharing. Oh, well, whatever. It's not going to happen. Yeah. So I really wanted to get out ahead of things because I do release 3 days a week, like interview release 3 days a week. And sometimes I do extra bonus episodes. And I've got a summit coming up, and I've got a gazillion other things. So I'm like, if I'm going to do everything I want to do, I've got to be really focused and organized. So, so yeah, that's what I'm doing. So I will crank out up to 9 a day, but it's kind of coming to the end of the year now. So I'm like,
I can't do that.
I can't do it anymore. Even 8 is rough. So now like 6 is a good number.
Mm-hmm. That's really awesome. Yeah. I noticed like whenever I checked out your podcast, you are pounding out those episodes, and I'm sitting over here like, oh yeah, she has almost as many episodes as I do. And I've been going for years. She's been 3 months. It's fine. But I love that though, because it shows the different spectrums of, fast paced, putting out more episodes, your side of it, and then mine just longer time period. So, and I think that this is going to be really cool. I'm so excited when you asked me to do this. I was like, oh my gosh, Nicole Holland wants my attention. All right, cool. No worries. I can do that.
So funny. Okay. So Michael Fink, I'm going to try and X that out, and boom, done. Although this last 30 seconds probably wasn't although, you were talking next. I'm like 30 seconds, that goes back a ways.
Yeah, 30 seconds is a lot more than you think it would be. And I only know that because I've edited so many of my own podcasts where I'm just like, wow, there was that much fluff and crap
you're like,
that just gave
I will
no
sit there
value.
and I'll go,
so I just
oh my God, Nicole,
edit all that out.
Like, shut up, and it's when you're talking and it's in the moment, it's just you're being as natural and normal as possible, and then you listen back and it's just like, and I just want to cut like half of me out, but of course I can't. So that's one of the things I think that I wasn't expecting with podcasting that I've really had to get used to is just accepting that sometimes I sound like a jerk and I say things and I'm like, that's so depositionary, or that just doesn't make any sense, or well, that's. And sometimes what's true one day will be different another day, right? Because everything's always evolving. And so when I'm recording months in advance, or even, so for example, Wes Pinkston, I had him on, I think his episode dropped last week. Great guy. Love him. He's amazing. And he is like this whiz at social media, and he's a realtor and he does all kinds of stuff, right? But he's kind of in this transition mode. So he's had a partnership for a blog called The Broke Agent. And we were talking about that. We were talking about lots of different stuff. Well, like about a week or two before the episode dropped, he actually parted ways with his partner, with The Broke Agent. So now his partner has it and he's doing something different. And here's this episode. And I'm just like, I wrote him, I'm like, I'm so sorry. We're going to have to redo something. We'll have to do another episode. But I felt like such a jerk because I'm like, it's not true anymore. Right. Yeah. And that's one of the things that is the downside of batching and getting ahead. And so I know for 2017, I'm going to reevaluate how I do things.
Mm-hmm. No, and I totally get that. And going back to what you're saying, how we like edit out our crap or our fluff, I think it's so funny because first of all, we're our worst critic. And I have to tell you, I was so excited about talking about this episode, talking about podcasting, because I'm like so passionate about it. And I have so much to say because I have messed up so many times. And I would love to teach everybody that listens, whether you're watching now or the replay later on, wherever this recording is shared, that it's okay to mess up. It's okay to not be perfect because first of all, you're never going to be perfect. I've been doing this for a year. She's been doing 100+ episodes. We know from experience that you're going to mess up. You're never going to be perfect. And I think it's so funny because at the very beginning of my podcasting, I would sit there, listen to my audio, and I would spend like 2-3 hours editing it. And I would even go as far as to like edit out the breaths that I would take. And I would edit out like all the fluff words as naturally as you can. But the problem with doing that is that one, it was time consuming. And two, being a human being. And I was editing those out. So I want to say to everybody, I get it. You want to edit out everything so you sound better than what you really did at first. But it'll just come natural. Just keep pushing through it. And now I barely edit my episodes at all. And that's not just to be like, oh, cool, me. That's me saying you get better.
I think
feel
too,
better about
like,
it. And you gain that confidence over time.
I feel like I don't care as much. Not that I don't care, because I love podcasting and I love my audience. I don't care about looking like an idiot. Yeah, because people
little tedious
are going to come along and listen to one episode and be like, whoa, you're an idiot. Yeah. They're not going to listen. They're like, cool, bye. And the people who are listening regularly, they're listening because they love me. And so like I can be 100% myself. And if somebody is like, hey, like for example, I decided to write I decided to write a guide on how to be a great guest, right? And so one day I finally got around to like making that time one weekend, and literally 12 hours, I was just churning out. I was writing, right? And so I'm like, and I still had so much more to write. And I'm like, whoa, like this can't be just a PDF, like 5-pager. This is going to be like a book. Like this is going to be, if I space it and set it up, the way it should, it'll probably be at least 100 pages. There's no way I can't just actually publish this. So then I talked with some people and I'm like, okay, I'm going to publish it. So that was a focus. Right. So then I was like talking about that. I'd be on podcasts or I'd be talking to people. I'm like, yeah, I'm working on a book and it should be out at the end of July. And now I'm like, I cannot fucking have a book out at the end of July. That's like insane. Like, what was I thinking, And so now I'm not. So I whipped up a quick, like just 1-page PDF just to give people something, because I said I was giving people something, and I'm working on the book. And when the book is published, I'll be giving it away. But I don't know when that's going to be. So that's one of those things where I'm like, oh gosh, I talked about that and I said a date. And so that's one of those learning lessons that I've had. And I've noticed one of the differences between some really great guests, some guests who maybe don't recognize that, is that same kind of learning where now, like I'm being interviewed, I think 3 times today after this. And I'm just going to let people know, like, go to bbrshow.com and whatever's going on will be there. And because I don't know when it's going out. So that's what I try and tell my guests too. If they have a launch, they have something going on, we can speak about it from that place, but otherwise just kind of be generic. So that way, no matter when you put it out, it's relevant, or when people might listen a year later, right?
Yeah. I think that's beautiful. I think that's beautiful. I think just two main lessons that you're just speaking about right there. First of all, just ship it. It's not going to be perfect. You'll be able to fix it later. Perfect example is you're putting out your PDF versus this big long book that you weren't able to get in time, but you're still willing to work on it, fix it up. It's okay. I've done it a million times. Don't worry about it. And so just ship it. And then second of all, just be generic, be able to put yourself out there and not, especially with like podcasting, because this is content that people are not just going to consume today, tomorrow, and next week. They're going to consume this a couple of years from now, unless you take the link down from iTunes and Stitcher, unless you totally close down shop and don't put it out there anymore. This is evergreen content that people are constantly going to come back to. So putting out a link that you're launching, that's why I struggle with this too. Whenever I have a guest and they want to share, their latest launch, their latest book or whatever, I'm thinking in my head, okay, but somebody who's watching this 2 months down the road, you've already launched, it's already over. I mean, maybe they can go check it out afterwards, but they kind of miss that moment. So that whole time we were talking about it, just kind of, I don't want to say a waste of time
because the audience at the time, right? Like that's why I'll do bonus ones too. For example, like Jody Jealous, I love her, and she does video, and she was on the 2015 summit that I did and taught about how to get started with video. And so I noticed she had something going on, and we chatted, and I said, hey, do you want to come on the show? Because she's in New Zealand and she's coming to Los Angeles for a live event. And it's actually, I had no idea. Usually she does higher end stuff and it's more expensive. And it was like $197 to get in. So it's like, whoa. And it's like all about funnels, and she's amazing. So I was like, well, do you want to do a bonus episode and we'll just like put it out? She's like, sure. So the next day we hopped on the line. We had a conversation around it. I mean, not just around it, but we talked about other stuff, and her, we talked about her story. Plus we talked about the event, and then I put it out that night. So will it be relevant in a year? It'll be of value in a year because of the things that we talked about, but it won't be relevant. But I mean, it won't be time, the time to do it. But she's also such a pro that she was able to say like where she lives online and how to reach out and all that. So even if somebody misses this, they can still find out about like everything else.
Yeah, I love that. It's the content, it's the value that you're giving. And that's one thing that I love. And I'm sure you're teaching in your book or whatever, as a guest, you shouldn't just talk about me, what I can give you and what you can give me back. Talk about the value that you're going to be giving the audience, their audience, and anybody else that listens later on. And then, add in, oh, by the way, if you liked this value, here's the next step. That it's a next step. It's not what it all should be about. It's not, the focus of everything, because maybe they don't care. And maybe by giving that value, by giving that content, that's where they're going to start to care. So I think that's brilliant. I love that you're talking about that, because a lot of people I've noticed kind of struggles with that. I've struggled with that, going straight to the, as Gary Vee puts it, straight to the right hook without giving those jabs to make sure that the right hook is actually solid. And
thank you. And
it's smart.
I'm actually doing a program.
Great.
I'm getting ready to do a pilot program not instead of the book, before the book. So the book is going to take a while. And so what I realized is, I can just start teaching this because there's so many things that I wish my guests knew. And there's a lot of really bad guests. I mean, even people who are really smart, like really successful, really brilliant people who can rock a stage. They don't understand the intricacies of podcasting. And when you're a bad guest, nobody's going to tell you you're a bad guest, right? They just won't. No, of course not.
I don't.
Either they don't put
naturally
the podcast
they just
out,
don't
or they
put
put it
out
out
the podcast,
promote it, or they just don't ever. I mean, they're never going to get recommended or asked back or anything like that. In the podcasting world, is a small community. I mean, I'm so excited. Are you going to Podcast Movement next month?
No, but I wanted to, like, so bad. I remember, oh my gosh, just everything building up to it. I've definitely wanted to go.
It's not easy to get there, and it's a big commitment. It's a big expense, but I'm super excited. Yeah, that was kind of where I was. I'm like,
though,
I just have to do it regardless. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a fairly small community, And it's for me, like if I have a great guest or I have somebody that I really gel with, I am totally sending them to other people. I'll be like, hey, are you looking to do podcasts regularly, or is this just kind of a one-off thing? And if they say, yeah, I'd love to, I'll be like, cool, I know of 3 people that I think you might be a great fit for, so I'd love to make an introduction. And that's the beauty of when you're a great guest, like people want to support you. And it's not a tit for tat thing. It's like, hey, you're awesome and I want to support you. And they just do. Whereas if you're not a great guest, then you're constantly going to be putting out, or your PR person or your VA or whoever is going to constantly be pitching. Like, I don't need guests. And I don't say that to be arrogant, but I don't. I get pitched to all the time. And I'm sure iTunes had something to do with that, right? When you're sitting up at the top at New and Noteworthy, people are like, oh, I want to be on your show. I want to be on your show. I want to be on your show. And I'm like, why? Like, why do you want to be on my show? Well, because I this, I this. I'm so great. Or they're, client. And it's like, experts are a dime a dozen. Like, truly, experts are a dime a dozen. And for me, what's important is that you like my show, that you like me, that you have some concept of you think you'll be a good fit. Because at the beginning, I was having on people who were just experts and they'd be like, I want to be on your show, or I want them to be on my show, without really thinking that through about the chemistry and the conversation. And because, and every podcast is so different, but my podcast is all conversation. My podcast is very, thank you. It's very much like this, right? It's just, it's about the journey and the story behind the person, but it's so in the flow. There's no like set things. And when I have somebody who's like, yes, no, that's brutal. And then when I have somebody who comes in with their own agenda of what they're going to share, and I'll ask a question and they like, don't answer the question. They just tell something else. I'm like confused. I got to that point where it's like, I don't need you and you don't need me. You can go anywhere you want and I can get anyone I want basically. And if I can't, that's fine. Then I'll find somebody else. And if you can't get somewhere, you'll find somewhere else. So for me, it's like, it's that connection. And it's like a relationship, right? I want to connect with, I want to share with my audience, people who I really respect or enjoy. And I want people who respect and enjoy me. I don't want people who are just using my show as a platform. And that's what I think a lot of people do these days, is they look at, ooh, what can I get? Where can I go to spread my message? Who has an audience that I want to get in front of? And it's like, boom, boom, boom. It's like a whole bunch of one night stands. And I'm not into that.
One night stands. I love the way that you just put that. And again, I'm so glad you're talking about this topic, because it's something I'm so passionate about. And I'm going to use that one night stand as the example that to push this topic forward. It is a one night stand because they come in, they get what they want out of it, and then they move forward. They might share it here and there right afterwards, but that's it. They move on to the next podcast interview that they're being featured on. They're moving on to the next promotion of their business, of themselves. They're not really interested in promoting your content that you just curated with them. And I get kind of why, because they get to move on, they got to market their stuff. But the problem with that is that they're not invested in the conversation. They're already thinking about the next thing they're going to be working on, the next interview they're going to be in. And I love where you're coming from with this, because as podcasters, as hosts, it is our responsibility to realize that we're not trying to just get. Here's the thing. If I have the choice between 2 guests, one is somebody who is incredible, has a huge audience, could share this out with a ton of people, is a big dog, let's put it that way, versus somebody who is maybe a little bit smaller, has a smaller audience, but has better value, has more to say, and has something that I can relate with and my audience can relate with, I'm going to go with the second person, because I'm thinking about the listener. I'm thinking about the end product. I'm thinking about the value that I'm going to give to the person that is going to give me their time to listen to my content that I'm creating, versus somebody who's just trying to pitch themselves, somebody who's just trying to, and I loved how you said that, how, there's some guests that just give you short answers, or they don't even really answer your question because they're too busy moving on to, oh, well, I know she asked this, but I'm just going to kind of leeway into this sort of topic because it goes more into my book that I'm trying to sell or my product that I'm trying to sell, which I get why they get to that point,
I think
but
you have to trust your host. You know, you're not, what I tell people is, as the guest, you're like the featured expert, but the host is the star of the show. And even though you may be a really big fish in your pond, the audience that the host has curated, the audience that they've nurtured, and the audience that they know, you're being introduced. So they may, like even Gary Vee. I mean, not everybody in the world knows who Gary Vee is. So when Gary Vee goes in front of a new audience, it doesn't matter that he's like this mad success in his world with a lot of audiences, but he may be completely new to a new audience. So if he comes in guns a-blazing and disrespects the host, he's going to put people off. Whereas if he comes in, and even if it's somebody who doesn't have a big following and it's somebody starting out, but who's got the hustle and they want to support you, and they come in, you position them, they position you. Like if somebody tells me they've got a book coming out, I am totally all about, I want to support you. So I'm going to do whatever I can to get the conversation that my audience is looking for out of this, to get value, and then also to bring value. And another thing that I do, and it's something that I teach people, and it's not hard, it takes seconds, is promote the host. So like if somebody says yes to me, or if somebody's going to be on my show, right? So you're going to be on my show. Awesome. You go into a list on Twitter as one of my guests. And then I start promoting your stuff, having nothing to do with my show. And that's so easy to do.
I love that.
And it adds value. People who are constantly just putting on social, as we all know, their stuff, they're a billboard and nobody's paying attention. Whereas when you're bringing in content that you believe is going to be beneficial to the people following you, it adds more value. So for me, do I expect all of my guests to share it? You know, it would be nice. And it's really not skin off your back to throw it up on social. But what would be better is as soon as you have that interview with me, like I've had guests who've had an interview with me and then posted about it. Or like yesterday, I had a guy, Drew Hume, who made a Facebook post with his, gear on. He's like, hey, I'm getting ready to get interviewed by Nicole Holland, and tag me. That adds people, like people are paying attention to me. I want to tag you. I want to be tagged. And people don't think about that. Like you said, it's like they go on to do. And it would take 2 seconds to add somebody's stuff to the queue, to just the existence of somebody. So even if it's not your, episode, because like my people, they don't want to know all of the places that I am on interviews. They already know me, so they're not listening. But if I position the show and I say, wow, this is an amazing show for anybody who is, interested in mindset, for example, then they're going to listen to that show. They're going to check out that show because I am saying it's of value, not saying, hey, I was on this show. You know what I mean?
No, exactly. I love this topic. No, and I love this topic because I've told people this over and over and over again, and it's something that I'm super passionate about, to the point where I've actually recently, this is actually probably a good topic going off of what we're talking about, our podcast birthdays. For those of you who joined in late, hello, thank you so much for joining. I love all the comments that are going on. I just wanted to hurry and put that out there. One thing that I've done recently is, instead of just getting all of the, like I said, the big dogs, the people who have larger audiences or a little more popular in the online space on my show as an interview, what I've done is I've actually shifted to, instead of just doing an interview-based podcast, though that type of podcast, no problem, I've actually shifted to people starting out with theirs, is I'm just going to pick a season, and that one season is going to be all on one topic. And I'm going to dive down deep, and I'm going to give how-tos, and I'm going to do panels. I've set up panels. And, if I have a specific interview that I want in there, I will throw in an interview as well. But the reason why I love this is because it's showing my audience that, hey, if you need help with the topic, and I know you need help with that topic, I'm going to spend an entire season, a couple months probably, and just dive down deep into that. And I'm going to have Q&As, and I'm going to do all these things, and maybe just throw in an interview here and there. And the reason why I love this is because it is basing my audience. It's putting my audience first. It's putting my listener first. It's putting them first versus my interviewee. And that's why I love what you were saying, is that even through doing interview-based podcasts, you're doing that too, which is something so many people kind of slip up on it because they want that popularity. They want to be able to say, oh, I had so-and-so on my podcast. I'm so cool just for being able to put my name next to theirs, which I get because it does feel cool to get the big dogs on your podcast. If you were to get, Gary Vaynerchuk, Chris Ducker, whoever is big.
You say no.
Right. It just makes you...
Well, he didn't say no. His people did. I'm not going to.
No, don't do it. And I think it's okay. It's perfectly fine to get those people on your podcast, but do it for the right reasons. Not just to sound cool, not just for that popularity contest. Do it because it's adding value to the listener, to the end game, to the person who you want to actually grow a relationship with.
Exactly. And something that I'm like, I'm not really sure what to do about this. I'd love your feedback. And hello, Eamon. Everybody that wants to comment, that's cool. I love that you are able to multitask. I can't.
Go ahead, Nick. You cover that. Alice Steiner comments on that all the time. I think she's still here. I saw her. She says, "You do too much at the same time."
Yeah, no, I read it all.
She tells me that I do too many things at the same time, but.
That's so awesome. A lot of people can do that. I can't. I'm like one thing at a time. But
and that's fine.
My show is about the stories. My show is
about
the interviews. Mm-hmm. And I've done solo episodes where I'll do like a rant or something. And I've got so many things that I want to share, but I go back and forth between should I or should I not, because my show is all about the stories and all about the interviews. And I've had people tell me and my numbers, like they love my solo episodes where I'm sponsored. Do they?
Mm-hmm. Amazing that you're asked. Just the fact that you're asking this question shows that your podcast is amazing and it's going to continue to be amazing. Just because you asked that. So many, I'm sorry, I totally interrupted you, but I just wanted to say that's brilliant. And anybody that's listening now or later on, ask yourself that question in your podcast. Follow Nicole's lead. She's so amazing with her amazing hair, which I'm so jealous of because
I just try different things. And it's like, for example, people will talk. So at the beginning, I was trying to do that more structured. And then I was like, this is just not me. Mm-hmm. So now I don't do any structure. In fact, now I'm getting to a point where I don't even do intros anymore. Like before I was going back and I was like, okay, well, today's episode, blah, 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 blah. But I'm like, do people really need that? Mm-hmm. No, people want to just get into it. So I just get into it. I mean, that's a good point. I think sometimes I'll listen to podcasts and I'm looking at the clock and I'm going, we're 5 minutes in and we haven't even started the podcast interview. It's all about you telling me what I'm going to learn, but just get on with it. So because of my frustration with that, I thought, I want to make sure my listeners are getting what they're tuning in for. And if you've got a short period of time, so now, and also my interviews used to be like 30-ish minutes. Sometimes I'd go over. Now I keep them under 30 minutes. So I go 20 to 25 because I think it's consumable. And I have people who will tell me like they'll binge listen. So if you've got an hour, you can easily get 2 episodes in there. And if you've got a half an hour, you can get 1. But if you have a half an hour before when I was going over, do you know what I mean? Like I just thought I was testing things and my people seem to like the shorter episodes.
Yeah. No, I love that. And that's another amazing point that I think people should do is they should test it out with their audience. But I've actually found that too. I used to do kind of longer form. I start out shorter and then it ends up getting longer because sometimes that happens with interviews. You know, and you either edit it out or just put it out there. And I've noticed that the shorter I get, the better it is because you're right. Most people who consume podcasts, and I have a ton of statistics. If y'all want to hear them, I've got 1 million about podcasting because I love it. But the thing is, people listen to podcasts while they're in the car driving to work, while they're driving home, while they're commuting, while they're at the grocery. I mean, I do that while I'm grocery shopping. I'll be listening to a podcast, and they listen to it when they have free time. They don't have a blocked hour of free time where they're doing absolutely nothing else. And they might be able to do it while they're cleaning or doing secondary things, multitasking, which is something I love to do. But they're not going to be able to just listen to that full hour. So they'll either have to come back to that same podcast, push pause, or they'll just move on to a new podcast, which statistics show they'll just move on to a new one because it cuts the fluff. It goes straight to the point. And I love what you're saying, maybe cutting out the intro or at least that part where you're just going, and today I'm going to talk about this, this, and this, and this. This is why I talk about this, this, and this. And this is why you should listen to this, this, and this, this. Oh, and by the way, here we go. Now we'll start talking about this, this, and this, this. And I totally get where you're coming from because oh my gosh, that was so annoying. Just me saying that was so annoying listening to myself. Right?
And it's like, for me, like as I'm learning how to be a podcaster, I wasn't a podcast consumer. I don't even have an Apple product. You know what I mean? Like podcasts.
I'm all Apple. So we're totally
audiobooks have always been interesting to me. But in terms of podcasting, it just wasn't something I really listened to. And because I'm not a multitasker, like I don't listen to music when I'm working. If I'm cooking or something, and yes, then I'll listen to things. But if I'm working, like I focus. And so having something playing in the background, it's not working for me. So, I was listening to all these directions. I listen to podcasts now, but when I was learning, I went through Podcaster's Paradise with John Lee Dumas and Kate Erickson. And yeah, awesome.
That too.
And they have so much stuff. Like it's, oh my God, so much. And so then I started listening to things. I was like, okay, this is, normal that you do this kind of pre-interview. And like, I love Nick Loper and, Pat Flynn and lots of different people I was listening to, and that's what they do. So I was like, okay, well, that's what I've got to do. And now again, I'm at the point where I'm like, not doing that. So now it's like, and I was going back and I was recording that after. So saying the episode number and saying that, and I go, wait a minute, I am booking people. And when we do the interview, I know when they're going to be in my chart. So now it's like, hey, this is Nicole Holland and you're listening to episode 107. Right. And then I go, hey, so-and-so, welcome to the show. And here's the bio and let's just talk. And so I think that's working better. Yeah.
What I think is funny is that by cutting out that part, it is saving you time and it's also saving the audience time, which is funny because normally, like you said, it's the status quo. We would think, oh, well, we have to do this. Even though it's more time consuming, we have to do it because everybody else does it. But the thing is I've noticed that podcasting is shifting so fast. It's one of those platforms where it's just like, it's so new, it's new frontier. Everyone's still trying to figure it out. And when it first started to kind of boom a little bit here in the last couple of years, people thought, okay, I have to have just a interview-based show. I'm not allowed to just do my rants. I'm not allowed to go outside the norm. I have to have set basis, this mold that I have to fit, and I have to get the same people that have been on every other podcast on my show. Again, I get it. That's what I did too. But now it's shifting. You don't have to do that anymore. In fact, you stand out and you are better for it if you don't do that anymore because you're different. You're being able to step outside that mold, which actually helps you stand out from the competition from the other podcasts and maybe even helps you relate more with your audience. I love that you do rants because I do them because we've got stuff to say. We're the kind of people where I don't know about you. I can kind of tell you're probably like this, but we're observers. We see a lot. And if we don't talk about it, we're going to, I don't know about you, but I will blow up. I will literally like implode because by seeing all these things, I see so many mistakes and things that other people have made that I have made because I've made a million of them and I'm still making them. And I want to share that with other people to help them be able to learn from those mistakes and to help them see that, it's okay. Just keep moving forward. Everything's going to be all right. And you'll figure it out if you just ship it. And I'm loving all these things that we're talking about because they hit every single point that I've been like, I have to get these out of my brain because, so many people are doing it wrong, but they're not doing it wrong just because they're doing it wrong because they don't know better. They're doing it wrong because, and I don't mean that in a mean way.
You're both there. And we all are. It's like when you're learning to walk, right? Or you're learning to ride a bike or anything you're learning to do, you don't know what you don't know. That's why I'm like super passionate now about shifting my focus to really help experts become great guests because
I love that.
We need better guests. We need better hosts, like because people podcasting is booming and anybody can start a podcast and a lot of people do. And so there's only so many hours in the day that somebody's going to listen to a podcast. So if we have a whole bunch of really shitty podcasters, then that hurts the industry, I think. Whereas if we have a lot of really quality podcasters, then that helps the industry and everybody wins. The listener wins, the host wins, the guest wins, and the industry itself wins. And so that's where I'm really excited and focused. I'm like, yeah, like I said, I'm going to do this program and super passionate. So what are you doing these days? Are you doing any kind of coaching around podcasting? This light is so bad. I have skylights and I've like kind of shut them on, but now
that's okay. You just look badass. It's not a big deal to worry about it.
I'm looking at my glasses and I'm like, they're so filthy looking. So I'm going to take them off and wipe them.
I didn't even notice till you said something. So now I'm judging you. I wasn't before.
Judge away.
Just kidding. I'm totally kidding. So right now, and I'm so glad you asked this, because right now I'm making that shift from just doing interview after interview after interview to doing, content based in seasons, which I was nervous about. I didn't want to do seasons because I was like, oh, that's what, maybe big radio shows do. That's what a TV show does. It's maybe not what a podcast does. But I've noticed a couple people doing that and it's working for them and it's something I would love to do. So I'm shifting to that. And actually, I have been, what's funny is it's one of those things as far as podcast coaching goes. I never thought I would ever help somebody else with podcast coaching. I was like, I'm not an expert. I don't this isn't what I live and breathe. This isn't, the only thing that I do in my business. But I've been reached out to from a couple of people to help them with their podcast. And I'm like, okay, I'll give you a couple pointers. And the few things that I've told them, they're like, oh, my mind is blown. I didn't know you could do that. And I'm like, really? That's just little stuff. So I think that's funny that like you and I, the little stuff that we're doing now, or the little stuff that you've done just in your amazing 3 months, you already know 10 times, 100 times more than what total novice beginners know, which is brilliant and amazing, which totally blows my mind, which is why I was so surprised when I started helping people with their podcasts. I was just like, oh, I am maybe not an expert, like this isn't the only thing I do, but I'm expert enough. I know, whatever. So yeah, I've done a little bit of that here and there. I'm shifting my podcast so that it actually matches my brand instead of just random topics, which is actually why I like your conversation-based interviews, because instead of just going with their specific topic they want to talk about, you are able to mold the content and the topic and the conversation in the way that you want it to go. So I think that's brilliant. What about you? What are the things that you are up to with your podcast birthday stuff? What are the big things? And also I would love to talk about, after you talk about that, I want to talk about maybe the challenges or the things that we've learned from the very beginning since we've started. Maybe like the one thing we would have changed or anything like that. That's one thing that I love hearing from other podcasters.
I think for me, there's nothing I would have changed. But exactly like you, I've learned so much in such a short period of time. And I'm super about it. And so, going through Podcasters Paradise, I recommend it. I'm an affiliate for John and I'm happy to send people there. However, it's not for everybody. There are people that have been in that program for years who still don't have a podcast. It's like information, right? So if you're willing to go in,
vomited all over.
I mean, I took time. I made the time to go in there. And I still haven't gotten through everything, not even close, but I made that time. And if you don't have a couple 100 hours that you're willing to devote to learning, then getting somebody to fast track. I mean, I did a VIP day with a client last month and I think we were there 4 hours and mapped out her entire launch strategy. And so we can do that when you have somebody that is doing things and has learned things that you want to do. And again, I'm happy to recommend Podcasters Paradise to somebody who doesn't want to invest in having a one-on-one strategy session or coach that's going to help them really just get it done fast. If they really just want to go and do through the process slowly and make the mistakes, awesome, go to Paradise. Or listen to podcast or figure it out on your own, whatever. There's lots of ways of doing it. But I think if you're serious about making your podcast a part of your business and you're a long-term person, you're not looking at this as just, I'm going to try it out, but you're like, hey, this is going to be a way of adding value, or this is a way that I'm going to get out there, or I have a story to tell, or whatever it is. Podcasts work in every niche. and you want to get some help, then absolutely. And like you do that, I do that. And it's not about, somebody can say, well, you have only just begun. And yeah, I have only just begun. But when you're asking me how I get people like Andy Crestadina to say yes to me, and how I get, people like Laura Roeder to say yes to me, and those are the things that you don't know that I do. And so if you want to pick my brain, then I'm happy to help you with that. So that's really exciting to me, because if I would have had somebody who would have just sat down with me and said, okay, Nicole, what do you want to accomplish? And really listened to my vision and then told me this. These are the 10 tasks I want you to accomplish in the next 10 days. And if you can do these 10 things, then we'll come back together and we'll go on to that next step. So just having somebody guide me so specifically would have saved me literally hundreds of hours, lots and lots of mistakes. So I'm doing that like one-on-one if somebody wants that support. Other than that, the book, the program, everything, I'm really passionate about improving people, the quality of guests. And also one of the biggest problems that guests have on podcasts is they don't understand how to turn listeners into leads. So it's fine, they share stuff and then they complain that it was a waste of time, right? Like they do podcasts and it doesn't really get them anything. There's no ROI. And then there's
it's the host's fault.
There's so many reasons, right? But it's not worth their time. And then there's some people who have built an entire business around doing podcast interviews. And that's all they do. And they're making six figures and getting clients all the time. And so there's some things that I didn't know before. People don't know. So that's what I want to teach about, because I've got those. I've learned so much. And I mean, even Alessandra, I felt like an ass. Like, a lot of times I get really uncomfortable with the conversation after, because I'm like, I don't know what to say. And I'm so excited to interview. I had so much fun. And where do we take it from here? Because I want to have that relationship with people. And I've made so many mistakes, including with Alessandra. I think she asked after oh, how can I support you? Which is awesome. And I think I said something like, oh, I'd love to be on your podcast, not even realizing she doesn't have guests on her podcast. And it's like, this is one of the things that I teach people, know who you're talking to. And I knew it. And she's like, oh, okay. And then after we got off, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I just said that. What an asshole. So these are the things where every time I make a mistake, I'm writing them down and I'm teaching people, don't do this. Every time I have a guest and I'm like, wow, what an asshole, I'm writing that down and I'm letting people know, don't do this. So I love it. Again, after over 100 guests, I had 30 guests for the Business Building Rockstar Summit, over 100 guests for the show so far. And then I'm gearing up for the next summit. So I've learned a thing or two even though I've only been doing it for a short period of time. I think I know a couple things about interviews.
I wanted to talk about that too. You've said that a couple of times, that people say, you haven't been doing this long enough, or you've been doing this for such a short period of time. But I want to say, to those people, or to anyone that feels like maybe 3 months is a long period of time, how long have you been doing it? How long have most people been doing it? Most people, like I said at the very beginning of this, don't get past 7 episodes, 7 shows. And to us, to you and I, 7 shows is like nothing. But we get it, because those first 7 were really freaking hard. They were, because you have to learn all these little things, all these tedious.
Don't know you have to learn.
Yes, a million things. You have to set up systems that you didn't know you had to create just to be able to stay sane while you make this process happen. And you have to go through the process of making mistakes. They're going to happen no matter what. But one thing I love that you said is, I would have given the exact same answer, not just because I'm copying you, but because I've said this over and over again to so many people. They've asked me, what would you do if you had to go back and you could change something about your podcast or your business? And I always tell them I wouldn't, because every mistake I made, every time I tripped, fell, scraped my face open and looked like a total horror show, I learned from that. And I was able to pick myself, make it pretty again. And I'm not saying my face, I'm just saying my business and everything. I was able to move forward and pick myself up and be better for it. So, and that's one reason I love your coaching and the idea of getting a coach. It's something I would have loved to have somebody hold my hand and tell me, that next step you're going to take, you're going to fall into quicksand, so don't take it.
Right.
Pivot, change, switch around, and make sure you're going down the right path. I would have loved for somebody to tell me, here are the tasks to do, go do them. I would have done them maybe tweaked it and messed up, of course, because I like to try and put my own signature on things and normally mess it up. But that's okay, because I would have known, okay, now I can listen to this person. I have a coach. I have somebody there. I have somebody in my corner rooting for me. So I love that. That's one suggestion I would give to people is even if you can't get a coach, even if you can't afford it, because I get it. When I first started, I literally had my first device, my first audio device given to me as a present because I couldn't afford anything other than these at the time. It's hard financially when you're starting out with podcasts because it's not exactly something that's super lucrative at first. That's also a lesson I quickly learned. I thought I was going to start a podcast and the money was just going to come in somehow from somewhere, but it doesn't. So I get it. Even if you can't afford a coach, get a mastermind group. Because that was huge for me, having a mastermind group, having people telling me what I was doing wrong, even though I thought I was perfect at the time. I had, get a mastermind group, get an accountability partner, get somebody that's going to be in your corner and that's going to, keep you straight and narrow, and also that's going to be able to support you and everything. So I'm loving all these comments. Again, I have to say, you guys are great. Continue to do these comments, but it looks like we're going to have to end up here soon. Oh my gosh, this time went by so fast. I feel like we've been on here for like 5 minutes, which actually shows it was good content. I love that. Whenever time flies, it was good. So Nicole, is there anything else you wanted to talk about? I know you have a million things to do today. I feel ya. That's my daily life. So
we all do. It's just I guess just to continue the conversation. I mean, obviously, I've loved getting to know you, and so glad we could do this. And I hope people who've been here have gotten some value. And like Alessandra, I read her little comment and I was like literally tearing up. So I love that. I love the conversation. And the best way to connect with me is bbrshow.com is my website. If anyone wants to know about how to be a great guest, like I said, I'm putting this whole program and everything together. And so I put just an email. You can put your email in at bbrshow.com/guest. And then I'll know that you want to know more about how to be a great guest. And I'll keep you posted as my development of the program happens. And
along with everything else you're working on, right? All the different projects we've got our hands in.
And the biggest thing, again, I said it, I'll say it again, it's relationships. It's just, I love to connect. And, people who have connected with me on Twitter, I read those, I answer them. I'm very active on Twitter. I never thought that would happen, but I love Twitter now. I do have an assistant who does conversation starters. So I created a list of, 20 questions just to get the conversation going, because when you have thousands of followers, who knows who actually wants to actually have a conversation, who doesn't, but we'll start the conversation. And if the person responds, I take care of that. My assistant isn't, it's me. So always happy to hear from people about takeaways or anything that you got from our discussion at Nick's the name, NICZ as in zebra, THENAME is my Twitter handle.
And her podcast is Business Building Rockstars, right? So if you guys want to check that out, I don't know if you put that in, but I didn't hear it. So you got to make sure you check out that podcast because I love it.
BBR Show, I can't multitask.com/iTunes is the iTunes link. And I'm also on Google Play and Stitcher. So for those of us who don't have Apples.
And I listened to her show and I'm actually really loving it. I'm so upset I wasn't able to be on it yesterday, so I'm so sorry. And I can almost guarantee you that she will end up on both of my shows, mine that I have personally and mine and Alessandra's. I was actually supposed to let you know about that. We have been talking about that lately, and we'll hopefully get you on fairly soon. We're starting to get on. We're trying to just get, the technicals in place, because of how much work it is to work with Wirecast and Facebook Live. But once we get that situated, you will definitely be one of our first interviews for sure. I've loved talking to you. Sandra's loved talking to you. We've definitely, we talk about you and stuff. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it.
So nice.
And in a non-creepy way, just so y'all know, non-creepy way. And I love that. Go ahead and check out her show. And I'm Allie McAdam. You can check me out at alliemcadam.com. My show is Passion in Business, and I also have a second show with Alessandra Colaci. She's amazing, and it's called We Mean Business. If you can't tell, we all love business here. We're definitely business fanatics, and for a good reason. The business that I've built, the business that Nicole has built, it's maybe I shouldn't talk for you, but I feel like you're going to feel the same way. I didn't want to sound like bad, but it's we build it because we love it, and we build it because it's what we want for our own lives. And so, yeah, I love business. I love talking to Nicole. You are so amazing. I've really enjoyed this, which is just making me more excited about our interviews that we have coming up, and just making myself regret missing yesterday's even more.
It's perfect. I'm telling you, like, I come from like a law of attraction.
I know the way it worked out.
If we would have had the interview yesterday, we would not be doing this right now today. And this is perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
It was, and it was our birthdays. Nicole's been going for 3 long, amazing, jam-packed months. I've been going for a very short year. We really have it down. We love what we're doing. And so I just want to last message for everybody. If you're thinking about doing a podcast, if you are launching a podcast, or if you already have, keep moving forward. Just do it, because the things that I've learned from podcasting, the amazing people that I have met alone, has built me as a person and has been able to build my business. So I definitely want to recommend it.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Thank you guys all for being here. You too, Michael.
I know. I love these comments. Alessandra said a second ago, I'm geeking out on how my background is matching your hair. Alessandra, we planned that. That was on purpose. We totally made sure they matched almost perfectly. Just kidding. Totally on accident.
Hysterical. Yes, thank you guys all so much for hanging out and Blab. And I guess I'll pause recording. All right. You're the expert on Blab. I am not.
Well, you can end the recording too if you'd like.
But there's no end button. It just says pause.
Okay. Well, if you